So we're going to be reading from 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 1 through 10, starting in verse 1. Now when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day, the Amalekites? Amalekites.
Should I read it?
No, I got it. Trust me, I got it.
Okay. I believe in you.
Amalekites had made a raid against the... Oh, man. Negeb, and against Ziklag. They had overcome Ziklag and burnt it with fire, and taken captive the women and all who were in it, both small and great. They killed no one, but carried them off and went their way. And when David and his men came to the city, they found it burned with fire, and their wives and sons and daughters taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him raised their voices and wept until they had no more strength to weep. David's two wives had been taken captive.
Ahinoam of
Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because all the people were bitter in soul, each for his sons and daughters. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. And David said to Abiathar, the priest, the son of Ahimelech, bring me the ephod. So
Abiathar
brought the ephod to David. Yeah, you just help me.
Don't worry.
And David inquired of the Lord, shall I pursue after this band? Shall I overtake them? He answered him, pursue, for you shall surely overtake and shall surely rescue. So David set out, and the 600 men who were with him, and they came to the brook Bezor, where those who were left behind stayed. But David pursued. He and 400 men. 200 stayed behind, who were too exhausted to cross the brook Bezor.
Yes. Okay. So just a little bit of context, just to remind you of what's happening. So David and his men, came back to their home city of Ziklag, and they found it raided, burned down, and their families taken away, wives, children, and now, they're weeping until they, can't weep anymore. They're in major despair, super distressed, and everyone is just angry. When you're so in despair and you're experiencing so much devastation, you don't even know what to do anymore. And so a lot of times what happens is you end up blaming somebody because you don't know what else to do. And that's what his soldiers were doing. They ended up pointing the finger at David, and they were bitter in soul, it says. And then let's see what happens. After everyone is feeling that way and blaming David, then David, instead of reacting like them, he ends up choosing to strengthen himself in God, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the situation that's happening in that passage. So David strengthened himself in God, and he was able to seek, listen, and obey. But there's one thing. So he did all those three actions. But I think one thing that we want to point out today is that behind those actions is something that he has. Do you know what that is?
His faith, Lord? His trust.
His trust, yes. So he has a trust in God, and if he didn't trust in God, he wouldn't be able to seek, listen, and obey. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and dive in and see what happens, okay? It says, and David was greatly distressed in verse 6, for the people spoke of stoning him because all the people were bitter in soul, each of his sons and daughters. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. And so, we want to highlight that it's his God. And why? Why do we want to do that? He trusted God because he had a close relationship with him. God was referred to as his God. He claimed him as his own. And David had a close personal connection with God. And we can only seek someone, take the time and effort to listen to them and actually obey them if we trust, right? If we trust that whatever their advice is or whatever it is that they're going to tell us is going to be a benefit to us, whether if it's encouraging us or giving us a different perspective on the situation. And so we trust that when someone truly loves us, they'll look out for our good. And David knew that his God loved him. He trusted God. But I think I want to break it down a little bit more.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that okay, guys? Can we break it down a little bit more? Now, what about God did David trust? And what can we learn from this as we face our own challenges? So, we have three points here tonight. And the first one is God trusted in God, not God. David trusted in God's presence. And we get that from verse 8. It says that David inquired of the Lord. And so David felt alone among his 600 soldiers. And although his men were blaming him for their situation and threatened to even stone him, he knew that there was one person that he could trust and go to for help.
God.
Yes. And David trusted that God was present in the middle of the devastation and in the chaos of all their emotions. And David trusted that he was there. And that God was watching and was fully aware of what was happening. David didn't even explain to God what was going on. If you notice, he didn't say hey God, this is what's happening, I came home and then, my wives and my children, blah, blah, blah. He didn't even do that. He just jumped into the inquiry. He just jumped into the question. He didn't share how he was feeling, nothing, right? And so he trusted in God's presence. He knew that God was there, and he immediately asked him for help and direction. And so, do you guys ever pray to God and tell him about a situation with all of the details and how you're feeling? I found myself doing that, a couple times, when I'm praying and I'm like, God, this happened and I can't believe that, blah, blah, blah. And, but, as if he didn't already know what was happening and he wasn't watching the whole thing go down, right? Or maybe you didn't even bother praying because you didn't even believe that he was there. Sometimes we get into these situations where we're so focused on the problem and in the situation that we don't even think about that God is even there.
Yeah.
Or we think that he's there, but he's like, can you even hear me? Where are you? Has that ever happened to you, Elijah?
Many times.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. Yeah. But I think if I could look back on one, I think I look back it happened during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I remembered
tell us. What happened?
It happened over the summer, and where it was I remember I kind of just grew content in my walk with God for a bit, because it was the summer and it was vacation, I was relaxing, right? And I wasn't really experiencing I would say hardship or challenges at that time. And so as a result, I kind of got what's the word, I grew comfortable, if that makes sense, right? I grew comfortable and I just sort of stopped seeking the Lord, if that makes sense. Because it's I didn't really need him at that time. But, looking back, obviously that was really selfish of me. But yeah, at that time, I remembered I just sort of stopped going to him because I just stopped needing him. And then the funny thing is, later, it would be like that, and then weeks would pass, and then and then I would realize, oh shoot, this week I have transition prayer. I have transition prayer, and I'm like, oh shit, I have to lock in, and it's awkward because I haven't been going to the Lord, but then it's I need to go to the Lord now, right? Because I have transition to prayer and I need Lord's presence, I need his help for this, and so the weekend would pass, it would be the weekend, and I'm preparing for transition, and I would remember, I would be crying to the Lord, praying Lord, fill me with your presence, fill me with your Holy Spirit, guide me, help me, give me wisdom for this. And it's I struggled, right? I would struggle to hear, because I haven't been hearing his voice for a long time. And so I was struggling to hear his presence or to hear his voice, but even though I was crying and I was really asking for help. And I remember after a while, I began to doubt and question, Lord, are you even listening to me? Lord, and then I begin to the guilt or shame kind of comes in, where it's I'm not even worthy of your presence, Lord. I deserve this, Lord. I haven't been going to you, so it's I understand, kind of a thing. And then I would try to do it on my own and try to prepare on my own, and obviously we all know that never usually works out, right? That never works out. But yeah, that's like an experience I remember a lot.
Feeling like that he wasn't there. Yeah.
Because I mean, but the thing is, it's understandable, right? Because it's like, I wasn't doing my part in going to the Lord, and so as a result, I kind of forgot His voice over time.
Yeah.
But obviously, looking back at it, even though I didn't really hear Him, looking back, I know He was still there.
Right.
Because as we know, the Lord's faithful.
Right.
You know, He's faithful in our lives. He's unconditional, regardless if, you know, sometimes we fail to show that love back, right?
You know what? It makes me think that like you almost like forgot about God, right?
Yeah.
But He never forgot about
you.
So, you know, and when you finally you were like, okay, I need God. I'm going through this challenge. I need God. Where is He? He was actually there.
Yeah.
He was actually even there when you weren't going to Him. And you know, that's what, you know, God wants us to know is that He is always there. We can trust in His presence, no matter what, and that's how much He loves us. And so, you know, my question is, when you feel alone, misunderstood, or excluded, you know, when you're going through a challenge, do you trust that God is still with you? Fully aware of your feelings and your circumstances, and do you immediately begin praying to Him, or do you initially wonder where He is? And so that's something that we can think about, you know, when we are experiencing a challenging situation like David. You know, do we trust in God's presence? Because when you trust in God's presence, then you're going to be able to seek Him, right? Because you know that He's there. And I really believe that even though you kind of put God on the back burner a little bit, you still trusted in His presence, and that's why you cried out to Him when you were going through that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot. I think I actually love interaction personally, and I know that there's people not here. There's people like that aren't here and stuff. But let's see if there's any interaction happening over here.
What do we have? We read that, and then my mom's watching. Hi.
Hi, Des.
Hello. And then we have Bonnie. I think this is from our introduction.
Oh, okay.
One of their experiences
from Campus Sunday.
Yeah, from Campus Sunday. For Bonnie, it's mine is Jacob Romero's testimony. Be still and know that I'm your God. So inspiring and teary-eyed. I love Romero's family.
Aww,
yeah, I remember hearing that. That was a really good testimony, Jacob.
Yeah. All right, so we will just try and interact with us. We hope that you got. Yeah, we love it. We want to see like all the scrolling. We want to read your comments. All right, so we talked about the first point, which is trust in God's presence, and now we're going to move on to the next, trust in God's plan. And where do we get that? In verse 8, it says that God answered him. He answered him, and then David set out. So, you know, God told him, answered his question, pursue, you shall surely overtake and shall surely rescue. So David set out. So David asked for help, right? And God confirmed a plan, and David trusted God's plan. So what did he do? He followed it. God said to do something. David set out to do it. No question, no hesitation. And God said it, and for that reason, David did it. Okay? The only way that David can follow instructions is if he trusted in the one who actually gave the instructions, right? So when you trust in the one who gave you the plan, you believe that the plan will have a good outcome, and so you pursue it. And David trusted his God. Remember, it's his God. David trusted his God, so he trusted also in his plan on how to respond to the Amalekites. And when I was like when I was reading this and when I was thinking about it, really meditating on it, it kind of reminded me of something.
What?
Can I tell you? Okay, so it reminds me of like infants or like toddlers and how, you know, they face an obstacle. And their obstacles obviously aren't like, you know, the obstacles that we face, you know, in their season of life. So it reminds me of like, I've seen these videos online where like these babies and toddlers, there's like this barrier where they can't leave a different room. Have you ever seen that? Have you guys ever seen that? It's like a gate, a safety gate, you know, and then they go up to it, they're like, wah, wah, and then what do they automatically do?
They look to their parents.
They look to their parents, right? So they look to their parents asking for help right away. No question. That's who they look for. And then they immediately know and trust that their parents have the answer to the problem. You know, like, what? How am I going to get out of here, Mom, Dad? You know, you have to help me. And so it's like they're thinking, I know my mom. My mom will have the answer. You know, will have the solution to my problem. She is my mom, and she'll know what to do about my problem. And I feel like God had the same, not God, I keep saying God for some reason. David had the same trust in his God. He is my God, so he has a great plan for me. My God will know what's best for my situation. And so my question is, do you ever find yourself trusting in the plans that God has for your situation? Do you find yourself doubting that he knows what's best or that he has a plan and purpose for your struggle?
You know, can I add something? Actually?
Yeah, sure.
I think it's so, you know, when we see David and just how quickly he obeyed God.
It was quick.
It was just, it's like, it's so fascinating to see, because I remember, like, I would struggle sometimes, you know, if God gives me a command or tells me what to do, I would hesitate. I would be like, was that really you, Lord? Or is that I don't know, that might be the enemy, isn't it, right? Like, rebuke these lies, right? That's like, sometimes we get those like hesitation and those initial thoughts. But it's just so cool to see David just be like, yes, Lord, like, I will go. I'm going to go, right?
Yeah,
and it's like, man, it's inspiring, you know, and I think like to be like David, right? To be like David and to just like be just that quick, that confident in the Lord's command. And
it's a trust.
Exactly, the trust. And I was about to get to that. And it really just shows just how much he trusts the Lord and his plan, you know.
I love how you pointed that out, because when you go immediately, really without hesitation, it's because there's a trust there, right? Like the toddlers and the infants, like they immediately look for their parents, and for us we like should immediately look for God, right? Or actually not even look for him, just know that he's there. We don't even have to look, just like you just start talking right away.
I guess that's kind of in a way then the how you like act when he gives you a command will really reflect how much you trust him, right?
The obedience.
Yeah. So in a way it's like that's like the measurement, right, of your trust for the Lord is just like how much do you obey? Yeah. And I feel like that's what I kind of see.
That's good. That's really, really good. So yeah, anything else? You want to add anything else?
No, that was it.
All right, let's see if anyone else. Any comments?
Come on, guys. What's going on here?
Everyone's cheering for us, which is great.
We have them. From Bonnie. Bonnie says, for David, God is his default. I like that, default, yes. Yeah. In any situation, David will reset himself in the presence of God. I like that, actually.
Reset. Default and reset. That is really, really good. Thanks, Bonnie.
I'm just like reminded, like on a phone, right? You have like the factory reset or like the default.
Yeah.
And I remember I talked about this with Alex Moreno. We were having a discussion one time, and I remember we talked about going to your default setting. And I remember he asked me like, what's your default? Who is your default? You know, and I remember I was like, oh yeah. Because like sometimes our default changes, right?
Yeah.
Our default isn't always God. Our default...
I think your default is God, but sometimes you don't go to it. So you go to something or someone else. But it should be. So I think what Bonnie is saying is that it should be.
Yeah.
God is our default. And so we should reset in him.
To our default.
I like that. Thanks, Bonnie. Ooh. Joyce. Let's see what Joyce says. Okay. I love that despite David's grief, he didn't blindly act on his emotions to get back his wives. Nor was he demanding like, Lord, give me strength to attack them. There's really so much trust in pausing before taking any action. Yeah, what did she say? So much trust in pausing. I like pausing. Yeah, I like that too, because that makes me think that, you know, if you just react, you know, that's just like you, and you're not even thinking of what like God wants you to do. But when you pause, you're really like, you know what? I'm going to place my trust in you, God. So what is it that you want me to do? Right?
I remember you mentioned that in your preaching. I remember it was, oh no, was it Kat or you?
I don't know.
It was hard because like I attended both sermons, so it was like it's kind of like mixing in. But I remember hearing, to just take that time when you seek Him or when you listen to Him, pause and actually like genuinely listen.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes, right, like we pray to God, but it's usually one-sided. We're just the one talking, but we don't really like give the opportunity to actually listen.
Right. Yeah.
Like, have you ever done that? Right.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I'm like, I'm totally guilty. Yeah, but I think when we grow, as we like grow in our journey and we grow even in our trust in God, then it starts to become faster. Our response is to go to Him like faster. Like even though there's a hesitation and stuff like that, we go to Him faster. But I do love too that Joyce said that there's trust in pausing.
It's hard too to pause.
Yeah.
I mean,
and not retaliate.
Because we are. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of impatient sometimes. I don't like waiting.
Yeah, I don't think anyone does.
Yeah, it's tough sometimes when the Lord wants us to wait.
Oh yeah.
And it's just so tempting to just go on your own plan, right?
Yeah, that's right. Trusting in God's plan sometimes means waiting. Yeah, waiting for the perfect time, and that involves a lot of trust.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we are very impatient.
Yeah, one.
All right, any? Oh, go ahead. You want to read
from Pastor Robert? He says, in this story, one lesson is either we are going to be led by our emotion or God.
Yeah, emotions can be kind of dangerous, right? We say that God gives us emotions, but it can get dangerous if you put your emotions first, or you react because of your emotions. Yeah, so I love that.
I'm like kind of reminded with what Joyce said, or no, was it who said the default? Oh, from Bonnie. It's like that. What's your default? Is your default going in? Is your default your emotions, or is it God?
Yeah, or you're reacting with your emotions, like you're feeling those emotions, because that's what happened to David, right? He was distressed just like them, but he went back to his default, which was, going back to God and strengthening himself in God. So yeah, but yeah, all right. Should we move on to our next point? Yeah, so trusting in God's presence, trusting in God's plan, and the last, trust in God's power. Trust in God's power, and we get that from verse 10, where it says, "But David pursued, he and 400 men, 200 stayed left behind." And why is that important? It's important to know because David's soldiers decreased in number by 200. Okay, so it was 600, went down to 200, and so he ended up going with only 400. So David's army was depleting, but he was relying on the power of God, not himself or his men. He trusted in God's power to continue to do what he told him to do. And so last week, we actually stopped at verse 10, okay, when David pursued. But did you notice that we didn't go past that?
Yeah.
You did notice that?
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Oh, you're like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so then now I think it would be very, 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 very important to see what happened after David pursued. Okay, so so we didn't look anywhere past verse 10, but let's go ahead and check out verses 17 to 19. Can we do that? Okay, so we left off on Sunday, David pursuing in verse 10. He obeyed God, but now let's see verses 17 to 19. It says, "David fought them from dusk until the evening of the next day, and none of them got away, except 400 young men who rode off on camels and fled. David recovered everything the Amalekites had taken, including his 2 wives. Nothing was missing, young or old, boy or girl, plunder or anything else they had taken. David brought everything back." And I don't know about you, but that sounds like a victory to me. Does that sound like a victory?
He did that with only 200 men.
No, 400. Remember, it was 600 down to 2, or 600 minus 2, and then 400.
Oh. Yeah. But yeah, it could have been 600.
Yeah, it could have been.
But it was 400, and they still won.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Wow.
David wasn't like, oh, now I have 200 less men. What am I going to do? I'm not going to be able to do this. But God gave David the victory. So when we rely on God's power, just like David did, he will give you the victory. Right?
In a way, it's like a miracle. Right? Miracles. His victories are often through miracles, I feel like. Because if you think that like logically, like in a battle sense, he probably would have not won with 400 men only. But again, because of the power of God, they still won.
And didn't even phase him at all that these 200 of his men gave up, that they were too exhausted, and they were like, just kidding, we're not going to go with you. He didn't get worried. He didn't stop. He just kept going. He still pursued. And it's because he trusted in God's power, not the power of 200 men or anything else or anyone else. He only trusted in God's power.
I remember a quote. It was I don't know who said it, but sometimes God will put you in an impossible situation so he can just reveal his power to you.
Yeah.
It was somewhere around that.
Yeah, and see your faith, see how much you actually trust him. And I've been in those situations where God continuously strips things away and does all these things, and I'm like, God, why did you do that? I need that. I need that. But in actuality, God's like, no, Jane. That's how he speaks to me, right? He's like, no, Jane, my child, my daughter. You don't need them. You don't need that or that. You only need me. Yeah. And that happens a lot, no specific situation. Well, there are, but I won't share it right now. But yeah, so you're right. He does that. On purpose, right? We have an intentional God. Everything is for a purpose, and so when he does do those things, it's really to test our faith, see how much we actually trust him. And so this also reminds me of another David story.
David and Goliath?
Yes. The one that everyone knows, right? So it reminds me of the fight against Goliath, where David trusted in God's power, no armor, just a sling and a stone, and his major faith in his God. And David focused on God's infinite power rather than his limited power to fulfill the plan of victory that God had put in place. And so this not only reminds me of David and Goliath, but it also reminds me of something else.
What?
It reminds me of an electrical outlet.
Huh? How does an electric outlet have to do with this?
Let me clarify, because I don't know, maybe other people out there might be thinking the same thing, what in the world are you thinking, Jane? Okay, so it reminds me of an electrical outlet, right? When we plug up our appliance or our device, we trust that we're going to get power from there.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so we have no hesitation. When we're like, oh my gosh, my phone battery is dying, let me go plug it up. We have no hesitation. We just do it, trusting that we're going to get power. Yeah. Right? We have no hesitation in inserting that plug, and that it'll give us power for our appliance or our device. So it connects, I promise, okay? So David trusted God, had the power to help him pursue the Amalekites. He plugged into God and had no hesitation that God would make a way. Did that make sense? I hope that made sense, guys, because I was really, wow, that's really what it seems like, trusting in an electrical outlet. So my question is, when you face a situation that feels impossible, do you trust that God has the power to help you overcome it? Or do you worry because you don't believe God's power is that great? Do you have that unbelief where, no, my God is not bigger than my problem? That's kind of a scary thought, to think that your problem, you're so focused on your problem that your situation is, so bad that God can't help you with it. And so when you have those thoughts, you have to think oh, wow, I kind of don't believe in God that much, or as much as I should. That's what I should say. Or, it's hard for me to trust in his power because I don't believe that he is that powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a scary thought to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we step into situations.
In a way, then, it's like your level of trust for God really just depends on your level of understanding of his power.
Right? Yeah. So then some people might be asking, okay, well, so how do I understand more of, him and his power? What would you tell them if someone said, like, well, then how do I do that?
I thought about that when I was reading this. And it's a funny dilemma if you think about it, because to enter it, to understand more of his power, you actually have to trust in it. Mm-hmm. Isn't that like, it's kind of funny, right? Because you won't really know it until you just put your trust in it, in a way.
But then how do you trust?
I guess like,
how do you build your trust?
I guess like doing what David did, right? Mm-hmm. It's having that confidence in his power, and it's also like, so you're saying like, what does it look like, right? Is what you're saying.
More like, okay, so it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, like he trusted God in all of these things, right? His presence, his plan, his power, because he had a relationship with him, right? You can't trust anyone unless you have a relationship with him. So I guess my question is like, how, if someone says like, how can I understand him more? How can I, trust him more? Well, we could say, well, do you have a relationship with him? And what does your relationship with him look like? Or they could say, well, I do have a relationship, but how can I grow in it? How can I grow my relationship with God? How would you answer that question?
I would say it's probably reading the Bible.
Yeah,
reading the
that's
Word.
A good one.
I think, I mean, a good example is like this story, to learn about what God's power is and what it looks like and how great it is and how much it is. It's looking at like the stories from the Bible of God demonstrating his power, right?
Yeah, reading the Bible for sure. And then it reminds me of what Kat spoke about in Campus Sunday Week 1 is what? Godly friends. Godly friends can also help you grow in your relationship with God.
And help you learn to trust him more and understand him.
Yeah, so good. All right, any comments?
There's crickets in the chat right now. There's a tumbleweed just going through.
Everyone just wants to say hi to us. Oh my goodness. Well, let me go ahead and conclude with this, guys. David had a deep relationship with God. He was his God. Through this relationship, he was able to build a trust in God that was unwavering and unshakable. In David's moment of devastation, he continued to trust in his God. Trusting God means trusting in his presence, his plan, his power to carry out and complete whatever it is that he told you to do. And when we trust in him, he gives us
victory.
Yeah.